Hey guys, my last video, I think it was my last video, I talked about how I was doing this thing I was calling March Madness to try to pick a main cue based on how well I shoot with it. Not street cred or anything like that, just how well I shoot with it. And I picked out 8 of my 39 cues that I called my Elite 8. This was like a week or so ago. Well, I narrowed it down. Narrowed it down an awful lot, actually. I narrowed it down to a final 4. That was tough, except for one cue. My final 4 consisted of my Tascarella, which was my main cue until January, so there might be like an asterisk next to it because that's the one I'm probably the most used to. Um, Another one of my final 4 was what I call my main peach hour. And that was also, well, a main cue for me 2 or 3 years ago. And I've always said that that is either my best hitting cue or one of the top 2 hitting cues that I own. Um, Another cue in my final 4 was, or is, my Tim Scruggs. That was a cue that I got used to immediately. I've mentioned before that sometimes I'll get a different cue and it'll feel like I'm borrowing somebody's cue for a while until I get used to it. The Tim Scruggs I got used to immediately. So rounding out my final 4, my Sean R12. And that kind of surprised me. That cue was my main cue, well, for 20 years. And for 10 of those years, the first 10 of those years, with the stock shaft, it was my main cue through all the 90s, which happened to be my peak of shooting well. But it still surprised me because it's been 20 years since I played with that particular combination. Um, I mentioned that whittling the Elite 8 down to the final 4 was tough, except for one. That one was the Sean R12. There was zero doubt in my mind that that cue was the cue that I shot the best with. So the tournament's over with. It's not really a tournament. There was no brackets. The contest is over with because out of that final 4, there really wasn't any choice except the R12. And so the R12 is officially, for a while at least, my new main cue, and it's my main cue based on the fact that it's the cue I shoot best with out of all the cues that I own. I've taken this little competition pretty seriously, I believe, and it's made me think a lot about why I'm doing it, why I switch from one cue to another, to another, to another, and that's what I want to try to talk about here, just so I can have some shooting while I'm yammering. This cue, I do not know how to bank with this cue. When this cue was my main in the 90s, I was a 100% field player, and I never banked the ball. I always cut, always kicked, always played safe, never banked the ball. So my inner pool player, who I've called Obi-Wan Moscone, never learned how to bank, and certainly not with this cue. So that's what I've been working on here, is trying to just get a feel for, let my inner pro player get a feel for how to shoot banks. And I'm not trying to aim them or anything like that. I'm not trying to get the speed just right. I'm just shooting the ball and trusting my inner pool player to figure out how the ball's supposed to go in and how to make the shot. Now that all that's out of the way, I guess I have two more caveats to caveats, whatever, easier for me to say, um, to the selection of this cue. Does not take an extension. This bothers me. Um, I could probably figure out or find a cue maker or somebody that can make me a good extension for this. I need to do that kind of research because I have a lot of Sean's anyway, and I would imagine if I got some kind of extension that would fit this one, it could also fit the other ones. And the other one is, I don't know what kind of a tip is on this. So there is a little bit of a nagging question in my head of, am I shooting good with this R12? Or am I shooting good because, say, it's got a LaPro tip on it? I think it's probably a LaPro, but I don't know. So there's a chance that I could take, if this is a LaPro, and put a LaPro on, my Southwest, for example, and shoot just as well. I don't think that's the case. I think it's mostly the cue. There's some kind of 20-year-old muscle memory happening here that I noticed right off the bat. This competition of mine, although I have tried to take it really seriously, I could have ended it after a week. After a week, I could have said, "Oh, he's the winner." Because it's always been head and shoulders above every other cue. It just has. It's worked out that way. So now that that's all out of the way, I just want to talk about, I guess, the nagging questions, I guess, are why am I doing this? Why did I do this? I've got all these cues. I've got a hell of a lot of nice cues and custom cues, a lot more expensive than this, a lot more street cred than this. Why did I make this decision to shoot with what I shoot best with? Besides the fact that I want to shoot my best. The thing is, in 1986, I had a Schmelke, and I thought I missed that shot, and it broke in half because it was a Schmelke, and I got a McDermott D12. At that point, I'm like, hey, this is a real cue. This is a real cue, like a league cue at that point, to my mind. But still, people at least heard of McDermott's. All my friends had McDermott's or Mucci's, one or the other. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a real pull player now. And I was excited when I got it, thinking, I'm going to shoot better now with this cue than I ever shot with that Schmelke. This was true. This is how it worked out. Of course, this was the beginning of my career. So I was improving pretty rapidly anyway. And it was likely I was going to shoot better. But that's what happened. Then after about 5 years, I've mentioned before, I got a divorce, I had some money, and I bought this in 1991. And at that point, I was definitely excited. This is not only a real cue, it's a nice one. It's pretty and all that. It's better than a McDermott. This is just the way I was thinking back then. I don't know if it really was or not. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm going to shoot better now. Not that I sucked. I was shooting pretty good back then, actually, with that D12. But I'm like, yeah. Now I'm going to shoot even better. Can't make the 6, so we'll remove him. We'll put him down there in case we need it later. That was in 1981. I got this partly because it was going to help my pull game. That was the last time that I ever switched main cues for that reason. After 20 years, I put this on the wall and I switched to a Sean SL10 because I thought it looked better. After about 8 or 9 years of that, I put the SL10 on the wall and switched to a custom order P-Char because I thought it looked better. Then I switched to a Tim Scruggs because I want it in the thing, and it's a custom cue. It's a Tim Scruggs street cred out to Yahoo. After a few months of that, I bought a Southwest. Yeah, street cred. After a year of that, I bought a Tascarella Street Cred and a really pretty cue. After a few months of that, you sensing a pattern yet? I bought a Richard Black here in the end of January. Street Cred, pretty cue. So in 1991, I switched main cues to this one because I thought it would make me a better player. But every time I've switched since then, it's always been because, hey, this cue is cooler than the one I've been using. In some way, it's cooler, it's prettier, more street cred, whatever. So I'm going to switch because of that. Never was it, oh, I'm going to shoot better now. And that's just the way it worked. I don't have to like it. I can't make a ball in this corner. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm yammering to the camera too much, huh? But nobody wants to just watch me miss and not be able to listen to me yammer. Definitely got an alignment issue. This is what I've been doing here today with this cue. Is just shooting this, and again, not aiming or anything, just trying to get my Interpol player used to it because he doesn't know how to bang. He doesn't know how to get the speed right. He doesn't know what any little accidental English does to a bank shot. And my hope is that eventually he will figure this out. Like he's already figured it out, like he figured it out 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, for just putting a shot in the pocket, like a normal shot, not a bang. I'm fairly confident that this will happen. And I'm excited. I did not want this cue to win this competition of mine because it feels like I'm going backwards. I've got all these newer cues, better cues, more expensive certainly. And I did not want him to win. And I fought against that happening. Internally, I fought against that happening because how can a guy own a Richard Black and a Southwest and a Tim Scruggs and a Tascarella and shoot with a Sean? I was proud to own those cues I just listed. When I got those cues, I was proud to own them. I still am proud to own those. I was proud to shoot with them. I was proud of this cue when I first got it in 1991, but now I'm not. Now I'm not proud to have a Sean as my main cue. This is just my own ego being a jerk, basically. Still trying to talk me out of the results of this competition. Can't make the ball in that pocket. Got to figure that out. Eventually, I will figure it out. So, that's the contest or the competition, whatever we're going to call it. I'm not saying this is going to be my new main cue for the rest of my life, but at least for a while, it's going to be. I want to see how far I can take this. A lot of the playing that I've done over the last 20 years, where I've always tried to be a field player, I was putting restrictions on my Interpol player. I would line up with the right eye, lock this leg, or in some cases lock this leg. Whatever I'm going to do my pre-shot routine and all this crap. I was putting restrictions on Obi-Wan Mosconi when he doesn't want any damn restrictions. He just wants to put the balls in the damn hole. With this cue, for some reason, when I picked it up at the beginning of March, Obi took over and said, "No, this is how I want to shoot," and it worked. It worked. It was, like I said, it was head and shoulders was the difference. Try that with top, and that didn't particularly work very well, but I don't care. That was probably the first time in Obi's life he ever tried to shoot a bank shot like that with top English. And that was the second time. Eventually it'll get figured out. So I'm going to do another video, maybe even tonight, about all this interpool player crap. I'm not gonna clutter up this video with that stuff. But there are some other things I want to say. It doesn't mean I had the shot master. It means now at least Obi did it once correctly, and I guess knows it's possible. So now if I find my remote, I'm going to stop this. And so for the three of you that might have been wondering since last week, hey, I wonder which cue Dave's going to pick, which cue's going to win Dave's little stupid little competition. There you have it. My oldest possession, my Sean R12, that I didn't want to win, but won very, very, very handily. That's it, guys.